Good morning, motorcyclist fans, and welcome to another episode of MC Commute, where today we will be riding the 2021 Honda CBR1000RR-R Fireblade SP. Man, that is a mouthful. Now, we all know that these super sport models have been increasingly more track focused throughout the year, but this one's got a license plate on it. I got to get to the office, so let's get going. Alright guys, the 2021 Honda CBR1000RR-R Fireblade SP. I know a lot of people like to call this the pirate bike for that name, but we'll call it by the triple R today. Now, look at this thing. What a beaut this motorcycle is. It has the HRC tricolor paint scheme that's so reminiscent of the glory days of Honda. I think Freddie Spencer when I look at this motorcycle. Now you got the Akrapovič titanium exhaust. You have the Öhlins suspension up front and out back. The fit and finish of this motorcycle is incredible, and as it should be, with a price tag of $28,500 US. But this is the most premium and newest model that Honda offers in the super sport category. And man, what a magnificent machine this one is. Let's fire this one up. Instead of using a traditional key and switch, you got to push this little ignition button over here on the left side of the motorcycle. All right, let's go. Quite dim, honestly. There we go. Okay, we had to use a little bit more throttle. All right, we're off. Now, as we've already touched on, these open class super sport machines, the Honda CBR1000, the Yamaha YZF-R1, the Kawasaki ZX-10, the Suzuki GSX-R, all these, Aprilia, Ducati, BMW, all of these machines have become more and more track focused over the years, and that is where they are really designed to be. Now, my colleague Adam has already reviewed this motorcycle on the racetrack, where I'm sure most of you would love to see this thing perform, so we'll drop a link in there below. But we're headed to the offices in Southern California, and we might as well review this thing as we go. Yup. All right, Honda, in the creation of the 2021 CBR, really modeled this after the RC213 VS MotoGP replica racer. That includes the power plant that they designed this for, the 999cc inline-four. They actually carried over that same bore and stroke configuration, as well as the finger follower valve train that's used in that model as well. Now, I threw this up on the Motorcyclist dyno last week, and this CBR produced 165.4 horsepower and 75 foot-pounds of torque. For your reference, that's about 10% increase in power from the 149 horsepower that the previous model made. You might say that's quite modest considering the big horsepower claims you probably heard this Honda has made, which is around the world 214 horsepower, but only 186 here in the United States, and mostly that is due to the tuning of this power plant to fit to the United States emissions and sound regulations. But 165 horsepower on the street, that's going to be more than capable to get you from point A to point B in a good time. One thing I've really taken note of on the CBR is that the power is all up top. There's actually not really much power at all below 7,500 RPM. The CBR almost feels, I don't want to say dead, but just lacking below, 75, 8,000 RPM, and doesn't really get away it doesn't go from a stop very quickly. You know, I think that there's other motorcycles out there that would probably punch away from stops and get going a little bit quicker, but that really kind of points out Honda's track focus on this, whereas most times when you're out on a racetrack you're going to be spinning up above that threshold. But overall this thing rips, and we will show you that as we get going. This CBR is also harnessed by a much more sophisticated and well-performing electronics package than its predecessor. It's got 5 power modes, 9 levels of traction control, 3 wheelie modes, 2 different ABS modes. You actually have 3 engine braking settings as well that you can all tailor to your liking. But we're out on the road. I don't really find much necessity. Watch this. 7,000. It really takes off. Wow. When it does hit that 7,500 RPM, man, it really does want to kind of rip your arms out of the sockets. This thing it's addicting once you get it up there and get it spinning, but like I said, it just kind of lacks a little bit when you're down there. It's almost like you roll on the throttle and expect it to go somewhere, and it just doesn't. But for the majority of sport riding, for the majority of track riding, that should suffice. Anyways, back to the electronics. I typically turn those all to the full power modes and the least intrusive settings, especially on just, you know, easy roads on the way to the office. If I was going to go sport riding and get into the canyons or mountains where the roads might get a little bit dirty, or I'm at the racetrack and I'm really asking as much as I can from the tires, I might turn those interventions up, specifically TC, traction control, just to help mitigate wheel spin. One thing I really do like about the electronics package, though, is that adjustable engine braking. We start to see that on other models. The YZF-R1, I'm thinking of the current model as well, has that, and I like the ability to adjust the engine braking. I'm a fan of using a lot in this motorcycle when you turn it into the most engine braking, the most deceleration map being EB1. It really helps slow down the motorcycle, which I really like. I like that. Another thing about the electronics that I have to appreciate on this bike is the Öhlins semi-active NPX pressurized fork up front and the TTX 36 shock in the rear. Now Öhlins has fitted this with the semi-active Smart EC 2.0 system. That means that it alters the damping characteristics as you go down the road if you're in one of the 3 automatic settings. Now there's also another 3 manual settings that act as a conventional fork. It freezes the changes on the damping characteristics and gives you the consistency. At the racetrack, I love that. I love the consistency, being able to tip into a corner, know exactly how it's going to feel. But out on the road, I really appreciate the semi-active just to cope with the changing road conditions. Let's go. Red light, green light. Man, like seriously, right at that 7,500 RPM, everything comes alive. Anything beyond that's just unsafe, illegal speeds, but just stupid fun. You feel that wheelie control kick in when you hit that too. Kind of keeps the front wheel down. Man, what a blast. Anyways, back to that Öhlins semi-active suspension. I really appreciate what Öhlins has done here. It's just progressively getting better, that semi-active system, the generation after generation just continuously improves. And what I mean by that is they've improved the consistency and the feel through the system. I really like using the semi-active system while I'm out on the road, not so much on the racetrack as I mentioned earlier, but on the road it really offers a good balance between that big hit support and small bump compliance that we always talk about. It can cope with larger impacts, but also just kind of glide down the road in a comfortable manner. This actually has 3 automatic modes, being track, sport, and rain. When I'm being completely honest, when I'm out here just riding to the office, I actually put it in the rain setting just because it softens it up and gives a more compliant ride. If I was to go back in the canyons, I would go to that sport setting. But it has really done a good job of just staying comfortable. I like this thing. Nice. And we hit another red light. But that gives us time to talk about the Brembo Stylema calipers. These are top shelf Superbike calipers, production Superbike calipers rather. And that's the first time Honda has used those calipers on its Super Sport model, and with good success, with good feel and good stopping power. Our favorite corner coming up, the roundabout. Let's see what this Fireblade can do. We're gonna throw it on its side. 445 pounds, fully fueled on the Motorcyclist scales. It's got Pirelli Diablo Super Corset SP sticky rubber to tack us in. Let's see here. We're gonna hit our bump here. Oh, man, I wasn't handled that bump pretty stiffly. Nice. Quickly up to freeway speeds on the California Highway 5, headed to the Motorcyclist offices. Let's get this thing in top gear and start cruising down the road. Now, we are in 6th gear and we are cruising highway speeds around 70 miles an hour, doing about just below 5,000 RPM, about 4,800 RPM, in a relatively comfortable and smooth ride. A lot of things to like about the CBR1000, including just, again, that smooth ride. You have a clear picture here in the mirrors, good wind protection, especially if you tuck down low and get behind that fairing. Overall though, ergonomics are tight. They're race inspired, as we talked about. The Footpeg position is quite far up and back, putting you in a really aggressive athletic stance. Now, the handlebars grow tiresome for me. I know that Adam called it out in his review of this motorcycle on racetrack, that they're quite flat, they're quite pushed out, kind of motocross style, and he likes that as a 6-foot-plus rider. But me, I'm 5'7", and I just kind of find myself reaching to the handlebars too much, and it just grows tiresome. I get pressure on my wrists, and it just grows tiresome. Unfortunately, there's pins underneath. There's pins on the clip-ons that slot into the triple clamps that don't allow us to change that in stock configuration. But should you invest in getting yourself a set of aftermarket clip-ons, that should be no problem. Man, it has gotten windy here in sunny Southern California, kind of out of the blue, really. I thought we were supposed to have the best weather on the planet. Who knows? But what we do know is this Honda CBR1000 is a comfortable ride. You know, obviously, we've talked about a billion times, this thing is track focused, and you can feel that within. It just wants to take off, it wants to rip, but it does provide a pretty smooth, comfortable ride, just cruising down to the offices. I really appreciate the suspension in terms of the small bump compliance. We hit that big bump a little bit earlier and it kind of blew through the stroke, but overall it's a pretty well balanced machine. What's going on here? Little accident. Fire trucks. Oh no. I hope that fella's okay. I hope that fella's okay. Big 5-inch TFT dashboard. I love that about this bike. Really clear, big bar graph or bar tachometer, easy to read with big speed indicator. And one of my favorites is the gear indicators, very large, very easy to read. Very easy to read, which is good. It's good. It's always good to know your gear position out on the road and also on the racetrack. I like that. You can toggle through settings, traction control, engine brake. It gets a little bit complicated. Sometimes you can toggle through those things as you go down the road or on the racetrack. But once you get to know this system, it isn't half bad. One little thing that just kind of bugs me is this little but switch cluster over here on the left. And you see these little buttons to kind of scroll through in either direction of the dashboard, but I get lost. Like, I sometimes can't find my turn signal when I'm trying to go through that. But anyways, that's one little gripe that I have about this bike. Silly stuff. I should get over that. All right, guys. Well, we made it here to the Motorcyclist offices on board the 2021 CBR1000. And man, I love this bike. This bike fits the bill for a lot of things and a lot of my personal preferences, other than maybe that handlebar position and little things like that little turn signal fiasco, as I should say. But this CBR1000 is an unbelievable motorcycle. It looks unbelievable and it performs amazingly well. But as we've talked about, these motorcycles have become more and more track focused throughout the years, and that's where this CBR belongs, is on the racetrack. $28,500, that places itself within the premium super sport offerings, such as, you know, the Panigale V4S or the RSV4 1100 factory, even the BMW S1000 with the M package, as I know we have tested before. But man, I love the look of this motorcycle. I think it's an incredible motorcycle and does so many things so well, but it belongs on the racetrack. It kills me that I'm just riding this thing to the office. I wish I could go to a track day right now and just rip it up. Honda is bringing just a limited quantity of these into the United States, and I may be mistaken, but I think that they're all spoken for. But this is a premium model that deserves a lot of attention. Personally, I can't wait to get this thing back to the racetrack, rip it up. Even if I have to go to the canyons or just the streets, I'm going to cherish my time aboard this CBR1000RR-R Fireblade SP. And I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you like it, give us a like, comment. We want to hear from you, and subscribe to the Motorcyclist YouTube channel. Head over to motorcyclistonline.com to read the full story about this Fireblade SP, and we'll see you next time.